Dr. Hideous said, a great game from start to finish. Passai is a monster, he is. And my man crush for the season, B2. Well chosen, Dr. Hideous.
Oh, Cruz Leeming's been added to the England training squad
as well, which is a bit bizarre. Anyway,
I think that's come out maybe just before we started. Then I'd not seen that.
Yeah, I just saw it now. So I'm not sure about Cruz Leeming being added, but
I don't see why we need a fifth hooker.
It doesn't make sense. But Aledzki, I think, deserves a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was good in this game. Sorry, Dr. Bob Phillips said, remarkably competitive game, expected to get buried, but we need to finish plays better, but we do have heart. A deep dislike of skullcaps. Final score flattered Saints. Yeah, of course, 2 of the 3 scrum cap wearers, one of them went off with a head knock and one of them got battered, and the other one fairly scot-free, it seemed.
Yeah, Fatboy Rob says, gutsy performance from Leeds, but let's be honest, Saints were 2 forwards down in the first quarter, and Roby scored a perfectly good try that was chalked off by Wigan fan Thaler. Leeds' kicking game was much improved without Baldy Gale, but they were never going to win this. Correct decision for the Red after a late, high, cowardly hit.
Aidan Stalker said, if there is a more beautiful sight in nature than Ignatius Passy in full flight, then I have yet to see it.
EFC78JU says, from a Wire fan, it was a good game. Fair play to St Helens on getting through. Burley, knowing the defending champion team of this tournament, could catch Regan Grace. He kept on sprinting. He got his 2 tries, and so did the testicle grabber Tom Beakinson. Never going to forget that.
No, fair reminder. John Hamilton said, was not expecting it to be that close. Strong defence, but the injuries haven't done much to improve leaders' options for scoring points. I thought we maybe had a chance with Dwyer on and pass it off, but 3 dummy half tries were too much to ask. No issue with the Red. Those tackles look horrible. Saints don't have that ruthless edge in the cup.
Mike Webb 58 says, credit to Leeds for hanging in. No doubts about the red card, especially as he'd got away with an earlier late shot on Theo. He had. Odd video refereeing interpretations, which I'll come to, of the rest call tries, and no review of the one Roby definitely did score. Yep, that was bizarre too. Highlight had to be Iggy, just ahead of the King Jack's try-making pass. Can't wait to see him in the flesh in May and for Tonga in the World Cup.
Lee Whitnell said, the first half would have looked perfect with some Benny Hill music over the top. It was a bit embarrassing that 2 heavyweights of Super League served up that on the BBC for the casual observers. The second half was much better.
Bit hard.
Leeds made it a contest and Saints finally put their hands on the right way round. Passy was great. Looking forward to seeing more of him this year. Plenty to dig through there then. Which one do you want to start with? I suppose chronologically it probably would be the no try, wouldn't it?
Let's start before that. Let's go right back to the start. I mean, I think this was a really hard game for Leeds. It's getting ridiculous how few are back. They've nearly got as few backs as Wigan now, Mark. It's that bad. They've got nobody to play.
Oh yeah, no, they're busted.
So, what that meant right from the start was the game plan for Leeds had to be to take it on down the middle. They had to just get the ball down the field as whatever way they could through the middle, and then hope something would happen when they got into the 20s. And I think they executed their game plan really, really well. Actually, they really gave. They made that limited options that they had. They really worked them well, I thought, Leeds, and they roughed us up along the way. So I was pretty disappointed, to be honest, with how we handled that. Obviously pleased to win, but I don't think Saints played. I think it was Saints' worst game of the season by some distance, and I don't think that's necessarily just down to Saints not playing well. I thought Leeds did play well, notwithstanding the sending off and one or two other incidents that no doubt we'll touch on. Yeah. So the first thing was, I mean, to be honest, I was quite frustrated. It was the first time this season I've had a really good shout at the referee. So I was in. So thank you, Ben. Yeah, you really got me going.
You're still living in Justin Holbrook's world, though, where the only reason Saints don't do well is if it's the referee.
The referee, yeah. And it's let's put it this way: the ball was as slow as Ben Thaler's treadmill. That's all I can say. It was. It was.
I think part of that though was Leeds' physical game plan. I think they were winning. They won contact more often than they lost it.
They did do well in contact. Yeah, I think they did do well in contact, Mark, and they got a lot of players into the tackle, and it slowed Saints down.
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. I've got you.
Yeah, good. Sorry, it just went off for a second. So that slowed Saints down. There's no doubt that game plan worked really well. But I found it quite frustrating. I didn't think we got the rub of the green, and that was probably exemplified by that first incident that you talked about, where Roby went over the line and Thaler didn't call held. And Roby got the ball down, and then Thaler said held up, and didn't go to the video referee. And it's not off. I mean, James Roby is a pretty calm, placid individual. He was absolutely fuming.
You can tell that these Saints players realise they haven't won a Challenge Cup for a very long time, because they were losing the cool in this game, and that was one of those occasions, like you say, you don't see that from Roby normally. I think Thaler just called it held up too early, didn't he? He didn't let the play out.
I'm not sure. I think by the time he had called held up, Roby had got it on the floor.
Right.
but anyway.
Yeah, I think he stopped the play a bit early, or called it or sort of saw what he thought he saw, and then kind of like made the call. It seemed a strange one. It did. The first try was good, and rather like the week before, Saints started very fluidly, and I thought, oh, this is looking pretty good. Oh, with the side that Leeds put out and the start that Saints made, I thought it was going to be.
I thought it was heading that way.
So that Roby no try gave us hope for at least it not being 60 points sort of thing.
Yeah,
as a neutral watching, but the next sort of. There were a few talking points from this game, weren't there? And I suppose, there was a couple of players getting head knocks, which came through it as well. King,
Lees was off early with his ankle.
Yeah, Lees got hurt early, and Matautia
went off
head knock early. No foul play, I don't think there really.
No, not on either, I don't think.
No, and just King Vuni Yayawa didn't really get that much of a go. He kind of had Passy do to him what Paulie did to Passy on his debut. So these Pacific Islanders, they come over here thinking that they're all buff and ready for it, but when they run into each other.
Yeah, immovable objects and all that sort of thing.
Zane Tetevano's tackle on Theo Farge. Now, we haven't got the disciplinary stuff out from these games yet, which is why we haven't talked about it. We expect this is going to be a ban of a few games, don't we?
I'd have thought so. I mean, I watched Tetevano in the last game for Leeds, and I'd already arrived at the conclusion that it was one of those guys who likes laying it onto the halfbacks more than he likes laying it into the big guys, and he's certainly got a very solid shoulder. To be honest, I think the referee let him down a little bit because, as someone alluded to in the fans' views, he put one on Theo Farge in the first half. He was late. Now, it wasn't high. And it was definitely not. I don't think it was a yellow card and certainly not a red card. But he was late, and the referee ought to have penalised it in order to let him know that he was onto him. and don't do it again. But he didn't. He let him get away with it. And I think in many ways, Taylor let him down, because if he'd penalised him in that first half, I doubt he'd have gone on to do what he did in the second. That was a pretty poor attempt. It wasn't an attempt. It wasn't an attempted tackle. It was quite deliberate, laying the shoulder into Theo High. And it was really late. I mean, I tweeted out around the time, late and high, it's a red card. And I'm not sure what anybody else could see in that. It's very difficult to argue the referee had any choice other than to send him off.
I, watching it live in real time, I thought it was clearly late. I thought it was late and it was forceful. You couldn't quite tell from just the main camera view the full impact of it. So I was expecting a yellow card straight off. When they got round to showing that second replay from the near side touchline lower down, where you actually see his shoulder come all the way round right into Farge's face, then it was clear it had to be a red card. Maybe if it wasn't a BBC game, we didn't have the same quality of replays, it might have only been a yellow card. But certainly with what we saw, it was late. There's no doubt about that. The ball was being caught by the next player along in the passing movement. That tells you it was late enough for him to have had a think about what he was doing. And it was high. I mean, okay, it was high, bigger man on smaller man, so there's maybe a mitigation a bit there, but it doesn't mean you should be so reckless especially when you're attacking a smaller man. It gives more potential for you to hit the head. And when it's your shoulder coming around and smacking him in the head, it wasn't even his arm.
No, there's no excuse really, and I do think we need to protect our halves. I mean, I think if we want to see open, entertaining rugby, then halves have got to be able to run to the line and pass the ball, knowing that they're not going to get smashed after the ball's gone.
Yeah, I think we like a physical game, so we don't mind it being played on the edge.
No.
But we don't. But that felt over the line to me.
It was.
There was two pieces in the week that I'd read. One was Joel Thompson, Saints' new signing, talking about how surprised he was how much physicality was allowed on the halfbacks in tackling the halfbacks.
Yeah.
I think Saints need to stop whining about tackles on kickers. But yeah. But anyway, physicality on halfbacks he was talking about. And then Zane Tetevano was interviewed talking about how he likes being given this enforcer role for Leeds.
Yeah.
Well, it came to pass, didn't it, in this game that,
it did.
One person
and he won't be doing
himself
that
up too much in his enforcer role, really. And the other thing is something that clearly over the whole weekend referees were paying a bit more attention to. But at that stage it was, the game was in the balance, really, wasn't it?
It was, and I mean, we scored some nice tries after that, but you've always got to caption those with, well, that Leeds were a man down. So, we did the right things. We stretched the game left. We stretched the game right. I wish we'd done that before.
You did a bit early on and then went away from it. It's like Leeds sucked you into their game plan.
We got caught up in a physical battle down the middle, and I'm not sure why we did that. I'd have thought, knowing that they didn't have halfbacks and that there were lots of forwards on the field, then the right thing to do was to stretch them left and right from the start. But anyway, we didn't. But once they'd got a man down, then we did start to stretch it left and right.
Well, I know Passy was your man of the match, but from a Leeds perspective at this point, you might be stretching the play, but they bring on my man of the match from this game, Brad Dwyer.
He had a great...
I mean, he was
20 minutes.
Everything we expect to see from Brad Dwyer. Absolutely, full of enthusiasm, around the ruck, lots of energy, not always going the right way, but going somewhere, always asking questions. And he scored those two tries, very close together. It was 10 minutes left, and it was 2 points in the game. And by this point, you'd had 25 minutes, nearly half an hour with an extra man, and hadn't capitalised on it. And I just kept thinking, why aren't Leeds getting